Ever get that feeling like what we see might not be the whole story? Like there's something more going on beneath the surface of our everyday experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you are in for a treat today because we're diving into a truly mind-bending idea sparked by this YouTube video we found from Beyond the Veil called "If Reality is a Simulation, Then Belief is the Code."
Yeah, we've taken a deep dive into this video and its arguments, and it presents a compelling case for something that sounds like straight-up science fiction. But as we explore today, these ideas actually have roots in both ancient wisdom and modern physics. And that's what we'll unpack today, give you some moments along the way, and get you thinking about the nature of reality.
Exactly, and the video just throws you right in with this invitation. Drop everything you think you know about reality. Abandon every assumption, every belief that tells you the world is fixed. Just for one day, experiment with this truth. Walk through the world knowing that your consciousness is the source, right? It really sets the stage for this idea that your consciousness isn't just passively observing reality, but might actually be the fundamental building block of everything you experience.
I like that.
So where do we even begin with this?
Well, the video starts by saying that the reality you and I perceive isn't some objective external thing that just exists out there independent.
Okay.
Instead, it proposes that reality is an emergent concept. It's not a fixed backdrop, but something much more dynamic
So not static, but more like constantly evolving.
Exactly. And to really grasp this, the video brings in this huge concept from quantum mechanics called the observer effect.
The observer effect. To those who might not be familiar, can you unpack that a bit? What does that even mean?
Absolutely. Imagine you're looking at the tiniest particles that make up everything in the universe, subatomic particles.
Right.
Now, what's wild is these particles don't exist in a definite state until they are measured. It's like before we observe them, they're like these waves of probability.
Oh, interesting.
They could be here, they could be there, they could be spinning this way or that way. It's only when we look, when we observe, that they seem to collapse into a single defined state.
So they're kind of floating around until someone or something acknowledges them.
Exactly. And that's what challenged the old idea of a fixed universe. You know, this idea that everything's just out there doing its thing, whether we're looking or not.
So our observation, our consciousness plays a role.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it gets even more thought-provoking. The video introduces John Wheeler, a physicist, and his participatory universe theory.
Oh, I love this.
He said that it's not enough to just observe. We actively construct reality through our observation. He even famously said, no phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon.
That's a powerful statement.
Isn't it? It suggests that the world isn't just passively waiting to be discovered, but our consciousness is playing an active role in bringing it into being.
It's like we're co-creating with the universe.
Exactly. And what I found fascinating is that these ideas aren't just new from modern science. The video points out that ancient spiritual traditions were already hinting at this stuff.
That's right. They mentioned the Upanishads in ancient Indian tech with this concept of Maya, which is this idea that the world is a kind of illusion projected by our consciousness.
Maya, okay.
And then you have Buddhist teachings about sunyata suggesting that things are empty until our minds give them meaning.
So in a way, both ancient wisdom and modern physics are saying that reality isn't as solid as it seems.
Yeah, exactly.
And the video even makes this comparison to video games and simulations. Think about it. The environment in a video game, the characters, they only become real when a player interacts with them.
Right. It's like the simulation is responding to the player's input. Like what you do determines what happens.
And that's kind of like how the video suggests our reality might function, with our consciousness acting like the player.
I like that.
So if reality is this emergent thing shaped by our perception, the video then goes on to talk about the relationship between our inner and outer worlds.
Yes, they introduce this concept with the Hermetic axiom, as above so below, as within so without.
Which sounds a little esoteric, but the video calls it a metaphysical algorithm, almost like a fundamental principle.
Right, and what they're suggesting is that your external reality is basically a mirror reflecting your internal.
What we feel inside shows up outside.
Yeah, think about it. Your emotions, your beliefs, your perceptions, they all contribute. What you hold to be true within yourself tends to manifest in the world around you.
So our internal world is really powerful in shaping our experience.
Really powerful. And what's interesting is this idea is found in lots of different traditions.
Yeah, they talk about the Kabbalistic tree of life, Advaita Vedanta, this idea of Brahman as the ultimate reality, and even Gnostic Christianity with its view of the material world as potentially artificial.
Yeah, they're all pointing towards this idea of a reality that is interconnected and our consciousness is woven right into the fabric.
So it's not just us looking at the world, we're participating in it, shaping it with our thoughts and beliefs.
Exactly.
But if our inner world is so influential, why aren't we all just manifesting our dream lives? What's getting in the way?
That's where the video brings in the concept of the ego.
Okay, the ego.
They describe it as a kind of program running in our mind, like software. And its main job, they say, is to create this illusion of
Separateness.
Yeah, like the feeling that you are a separate individual disconnected from everything else.
Okay, I think I get it.
And this leads to this sense of limitation, this belief that you're just subject to external forces beyond your control.
Like we're just along for the ride, right? Not really in the driver's seat.
Right, and it's that voice in your head that might say, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that, or the world is a scary place.
It's like that inner critic that's always judging and comparing.
But
it's not all bad, right? The video says that the ego serves a purpose.
Yeah, it's like a survival mechanism. It helped us navigate the world, develop a sense of self. But the key is that sense of self is not the true you, the real you.
So it's like an avatar.
Yeah, like a character you play in the game of life, but not the player themselves.
Got it. So when we identify too much with this limited ego, with this limited sense of self, we start to believe we're powerless.
Yeah, that's the trap. But the video offers a different perspective. They say, you are not the character, you are the player. You are not the program, you are the coder.
Whoa.
So it's about reclaiming your power, recognizing that you are not just a product of your circumstances, but a conscious creator.
I like that. It's a big shift in perspective.
Huge.
But so far, we've been talking philosophy and ancient wisdom, but the video doesn't stop there. It brings in some modern science and philosophy to back up this whole idea of a simulated reality.
That's right. They start with Nick Bostrom's simulation argument.
The simulation argument.
Yeah. In a nutshell, it says that if there are other advanced civilizations out there, civilizations with powerful computers and technology, they'd likely run tons of simulations.
Okay.
And if they're running simulations, the odds are that we might be in one of those simulations right now.
So statistically, we're more likely to be in a simulation than not.
That's what Bostrom's arguing.
That's crazy.
It is, right? And you know who agrees with this?
Who?
Elon Musk. The video mentions that even he said that the odds are pretty high that we're in a simulation.
Whoa, that's wild. So even people like Elon Musk are taking this seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And then they bring up the advancements we're seeing in AI, quantum computing, neural simulations, all these fields that are getting closer and closer to creating complex digital worlds.
So it's becoming more and more plausible that creating a simulated reality isn't just science fiction.
Exactly. And if we can imagine doing it, who's to say that some advanced civilization hasn't already done it on a much larger scale?
Right. It really makes you think. Now, the video also says there's actual evidence from physics to back this up, and they point to this famous experiment called the double slit experiment. Can you remind us what that experiment showed and why it's so significant?
Of course. So imagine you have a wall with two slits in it.
Okay.
And you're firing tiny particles like electrons at the wall. Now, if you don't watch which slit they go through, they act like weight. They go through both slits at the same time.
Interesting.
Right. But the moment you put a detector there to try and observe which slit they actually go through, they suddenly start acting like particles. They only go through one slit. It's as if the act of observation changes their behavior.
So basically, our consciousness, our observation, is affecting the reality of these tiny particles.
Exactly. And what this suggests is that matter isn't inherently solid or fixed until consciousness interacts with it. It's like reality is in this state of potentiality, waiting for our observation to make it concrete.
Like it only becomes real when we look at it.
Precisely. And that's what connects it back to the simulation idea. Like maybe the system only renders what's being observed to save processing power.
It's like the computer game only shows you what you're looking at and the rest is just code.
Right, efficient. Now, the video takes this a step further and asks if our brains are just generators of consciousness or could they be
receivers?
Yeah, tuning into some kind of universal field of awareness. They even mention scientists like Sir John Eccles and Roger Penrose who've explored this idea.
So instead of our brains creating consciousness, they're picking it up like a radio signal.
That's the idea. It means that your thoughts and awareness might not be just limited to your brain, but connected to a larger field of consciousness that exists beyond space and time.
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing. So if consciousness is this fundamental aspect of reality, the video then brings in this theory called the holographic universe.
Oh yeah, this is a really cool idea.
What's the gist of that?
So David Bohm, a quantum physicist, proposed that the universe isn't a bunch of separate objects, but rather this indivisible whole, like this massive interconnected web of energy and information.
Okay.
And the analogy he uses is a hologram. You know how in a hologram, every part of the image contains information about the whole image?
Yeah?
He argued that the universe is like that, where everything is interconnected and contains information about the whole. So what we see as separate objects and events are really just different perspectives of this one unified reality.
So everything's connected, and the part contains the whole.
Exactly. And they link this to the fractal nature of reality, how we see these repeating patterns at different scales.
From galaxies to atoms, there's this underlying structure.
Exactly. And they bring back the Hermetic maxim, as above, so below.
Right, as above, so below. It's at a reflection.
Exactly. So if reality is holographic, then what we experience as the physical world is like a projection of information coming from this deeper, unseen order.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but let's bring it all together.
Yeah.
The video's big conclusion is that the world you experience isn't just passively observed, but is a direct projection of your own consciousness.
It's not just that we perceive it differently, but our minds are actively shaping.
So how does that actually work? Like, how do we shape reality with our minds?
Okay, so picture this. Your mind is both the observer and the architect.
Okay.
As the observer, you're collapsing those quantum probabilities, and as the architect, you're influencing what form reality takes.
Based on?
Your beliefs, your emotions, your expectations. The video says this isn't just some nice metaphor, it's a fundamental part of how reality works.
So our thoughts and feelings literally have an impact on the world around us.
Yes, it's like our thoughts create ripples in this sea of potential.
The video also talks about this feedback loop where what we focus on expands. If you focus on fear and lack, guess what?
More fear and lack.
More fear and lack. If you cultivate gratitude and abundance, you see more of that.
Because our attention directs what gets rendered into our personal reality. What we focus on becomes our reality.
So if you're always worried about money, you'll probably keep seeing reasons to be worried about money.
Right. And it's not just our thoughts, but our emotions too.
How so?
Think about it. Different emotions have different frequencies, different vibrations.
So lower vibrational emotions like fear and shame might contribute to more negative experiences.
Right. And higher vibrations like love and joy might attract more positive. It's like our emotional state influence quality of our...
This is heavy stuff. Like, we have a lot of responsibility here.
Yeah, the video says it straight up. The world is not happening to you. It is happening through you.
So we're not just passive victims of our circumstances. We're actively shaping them.
Exactly. So what do we do with that?
Well, the video talks about the power of non-reaction.
Non-reaction.
Yeah, it says that our reactions to events are what solidify them in our experience.
Okay, so if we react strongly to something negative, we're giving it energy and make...
Exactly. But if we can learn to detach from our immediate emotional reaction, we can actually lessen their power over us.
So not suppressing emotions, but choosing our response rather than just reacting automatically.
Right, and it's not about becoming emotionless or passive. It's about becoming more conscious, more deliberate in how we respond to the world.
Like we're taking back control.
Exactly. And the video makes this cool analogy to lucid dreaming. When you realize you're in a dream, the dream loses its power over it. You can start to shape it.
Wow, yeah.
And that's the idea here. When we realize that our reality is shaped by our consciousness, we can start to take control and create the life we want.
Okay, this brings us to the core idea of the video, right?
Yeah, the big one. If reality is a simulation, then belief is the code.
Powerful stuff.
So where is this code of our beliefs? Where does it all reside?
The video says it's not in our conscious thoughts, but in our subconscious. It's like the operating system that's running behind it.
So it's those seated beliefs, those assumptions and expectations that we're not even always aware of.
Right. And those are the beliefs that are shaping our reality. They're like the commands that tell the simulation what to do.
So if you believe you're unlucky, you'll probably keep seeing evidence of that belief. But if you believe in abundance, that might show up more in your life.
And they connect this to Neville Goddarding, that feeling.
Ah, feeling is the secret.
Yeah, Goddard said that the subconscious mind responds to feeling, not just logic.
So it's not enough to just think positive thoughts. We have to feel the emotions of our desires as if they're already real.
Exactly. And that's how we program our subconscious mind, by feeling the reality we want to create.
So it's about embodying the feeling, not just the thought.
Exact. And that brings us to another big concept the video tackles, the illusion of linear time.
Linear time, okay. You're going to have to explain that one.
This one's a little mind-bending, but stick with me. So we're conditioned to believe in this straight line of time, past, present, future.
Cause and effect, right?
Right. But the video proposes that this might just be a construct of our mind. In a deeper reality, all possibilities could be existing simultaneously.
So not a straight line, but more like everything happening at once.
It's more like we're not moving through time, time is moving through us.
Okay, so how does that change anything?
Well, it means that the future isn't set in stone. It suggests that by changing our present state of consciousness, we can potentially shift into a different timeline, a different reality where our desires have already manifested.
So it's not about waiting for the future to happen. It's about choosing the future we want to experience now.
And this connects to the idea of thinking from the end.
Thinking from the end, okay.
Instead of focusing on the lack or the gap between where we are and where we want to be, we imagine ourselves as already having achieved our desire.
So we feel the feelings, embody the reality we want, even though it's not real yet.
Exact. And the video suggests this is why people who expect miracles often experience them. Their unwavering belief acts as a powerful attractor.
Wow. So to sum it all up, this video argues that reality is not some fixed external thing happening to us, but a dynamic, responsive projection of our consciousness.
And that every thought we think, every reaction we have, every belief we hold is actively shaping our experience.
It's like we're all walking around with these powerful reality-shaping machines in our heads, but we don't even know how to use them.
Exactly. But the video is like a user manual showing us how to take control and become conscious creators of our lives.
So powerful.
It really is.
So as we conclude this deep dive into the idea that reality might be a simulation with belief as the code, I want to leave you with this question. If you are the coder of your experience, what new lines of code are you going to write today?
That's the question. Because if we can really embrace this idea, those limitations that we've accepted as fixed, they might start to dissolve, and we might discover that reality is much more valuable than we ever imagined.
Exactly. So go out there, experiment, explore, and see what you can create. Thanks for joining us for this mind-bending exploration, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
For another deep dive into the mysteries of reality.
Bye for now.